Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern most nights. We stand up and have Night School where I break down the most interesting conversations, the most urgent debates, the most controversial topics going on in the world today. And we don't do superficial analysis. We don't do drive-by commentary. We don't do the cable news talking game. We do something deeper. We do a deep dive on these issues. It is a global classroom. And tonight we got so much to talk about. By the way, people always ask me about the shirts I'm wearing. This one, if you can see, if those who know, I ain't gonna tell you what this is, but if you know, you know. Write in the comment if you know what that t-shirt reference is. In the meantime, welcome again to Night School. Drop in your city, drop in your state, drop in your country, and of course write the word present if you're here present for class. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's your 50th time or your 100th time here in Night School, welcome back. We love having everybody here. We got so much to talk about. Some of it is cultural, some of it is pop culture, some of it is politics. But the first thing that comes up is something that happened just this evening. Vice President Kamala Harris arrived in Michigan for a huge rally. She is on a tour of swing states. She just left Pennsylvania. She arrived in Michigan, where she had another packed house to hear her speak. But this time, Vice President Harris, she got some pushback. Pro-Palestine protesters interrupted her speech as they called for justice in Palestine. And she responded to the protesters. I want y'all to take a listen and tell me what you think. Check this out.
He intends to surrender our fight against the climate crisis, and he intends to end the Affordable Care Act. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
Woo! That did not go well. So, as you can hear, Vice President Harris was giving her remarks. Pro-Palestine protesters interrupt the speech, as they do everybody. We saw that with Joe Biden at a church. We've seen that with Donald Trump all the time. I mean, his speeches be getting interrupted with bullets. Hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody else, and hopefully it doesn't happen to him anymore as well, in case the FBI is listening. But what we just saw with Vice President Harris represents a key challenge, a surmountable challenge, but a key challenge for her candidacy, for her campaign, and for the very legitimate and principled struggle for a free Palestine. This is what I'm saying. She arrived in Michigan. For those that don't know, Michigan is a state that really sort of birthed the uncommitted campaign. It really kind of started in Dearborn, but you could look at Ann Arbor, you could look at Detroit, you could look at other areas. And they basically said during the Democratic primary, we are not committing to Joe Biden. We have a category here that says uncommitted. That means we're not voting for Biden. We're not voting for anybody else, but we're saying we're not committed to Biden in the general election. We need to see something. And the people who organized that movement effectively said, until Joe Biden responds to the genocide in Gaza, until he offers a principled stance, until he says or does something that makes us believe that he's on the right side of this issue or closer to the right side of this issue, we won't commit to him. And because of that movement, Biden was trailing in certain states. I mean, there's an uncommitted movement here in Pennsylvania. There's one in Michigan. Lots of people said, we're not voting for this ticket, Biden-Harris, until something different is done on Palestine. Here in Pennsylvania, the two primary asks were, one, an embargo on all weapons to Israel. No U.S. will send not another weapon to Israel. The second ask was a ceasefire. And they said until one of those two goals is met, there will be no voting for Joe Biden. And now Kamala Harris is at the top of the ticket. They're saying Same thing goes for you, Vice President Harris. We're not voting for you unless you do one of these two things. And so when they interrupt her in Michigan and they're calling for a free Palestine, this was an opportunity. This was an opportunity for Kamala Harris to respond, to engage, to do something to address this issue. One of the tensions going into the last 2 weeks, and certainly going into the past weekend with Josh Shapiro as a potential VP pick, is that there's been so much conversation about what the Harris campaign is going to do and what the Harris administration would do on Palestine. There's been rumors that she's better on the issue. There have been murmurs that she has a different stance on Netanyahu's actions. There's a case to be made that she was calling for a ceasefire. It's unclear that that was a permanent ceasefire rather than just a temporary, really humanitarian pause, as they call it. It was very unclear and uncertain what it all meant. And so this was an opportunity for Vice President Harris to do something or say something. And she made an interesting move. I'm going to show it to you one more time because I want you all to hear how she handled it and let me know if y'all think she handled it right. Write in the comments whether you think she handled it right. I'm going to tell you what I think in a second.
He intends to surrender our fight against the climate crisis, and he intends to end the Affordable Care Act. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking. He intends to surrender our fight.
This is not what it looks like. I'm going to start there. In that room, it played amazing. But this is a home game. Everybody in that stadium is going to speak up and speak out in defense of Kamala Harris because this is her crowd. And they're going to shout down the protesters, just like they shouted down the protesters at Mother Emanuel AME this past January when protesters came in and shouted down Joe Biden. The question is, how does it play outside of that stadium? Well, to your base, Black Twitter is going to go wild on this because they're watching a Black woman stand up, reclaim her time, resist being shouted down, that she spoke up for herself, and she did it in a very culturally centered way. She's like, look, I'm talking, right? What do you want? Do you want, let's say George Bush, do you want Donald Trump to be president again? If so, that's what's going to happen if you keep interrupting me. The problem with that message, there's several problems with that message. One, I don't think that's how you should respond to protest. Joe Biden didn't respond to protest that way. Barack Obama didn't respond to protest that way. And I'm mentioning those two because those are the last two Democratic presidents. I think they set an example by saying, look, we're open to the protest. It might not even be true. I'm not saying Kamala Harris is different than them in terms of her ideology, but they made it seem as if they welcomed the protests. Instead of welcoming the protest, she basically told them that your protest is why Donald Trump might be president again. Let me speak, or Donald Trump's going to be president again. That does not open the tent. I'm speaking strategically right now. We'll get to the ideological part of it in a moment. But strategically, does that response make the tent wider, or does it make the tent smaller? That response makes your base happy. And there is an argument to be made from the base that we shouldn't be single issue voters, that if you make Palestine the only issue and I can't respond to Palestine the way you want me to, or I won't respond to Palestine the way you want me to, then you're making Donald Trump president. And making Donald Trump president does not make Palestine better. So therefore, be strategic, be tactical, protesters. I hear you. There is an argument for that, but that's not the argument you make to protesters when they're standing up and using their First Amendment right to speak out against a genocide that is actively taking place. You don't have to go against your principles. You don't have to say something you don't mean. You shouldn't make an empty promise. Don't lie to us. But at the very least, acknowledge the protesters. Say, hey, this is America, First Amendment rights. You have a right to protest. And you could say, hey, you will be hearing from me about my position on Gaza. I respect the right, the pro-Palestine protesters. I want to hear what they have to say. I will be making time for it. I will have a speech prepared for what my plan is on Gaza, what my plan is for the West Bank, what my plan is to build peace in the region. There's all kinds of answers, but to basically shout them down and dismiss them, I don't think is strategically wise. Now, this is early in the campaign. I'm not saying that this is, I hope it's the worst moment. I hope it doesn't get worse. I hope this is the worst moment, the low moment of the campaign on this issue, and that there comes a time where they speak up. But you have to understand, I'm sorry, there comes a time where they speak up, she responds, and there's an engagement and an actual platform laid out. Because at some point, Kamala Harris is going to have to speak to Palestine, just like she's going to have to speak to Lebanon and Syria, just like she's going to have to speak to infrastructure, just like she's going to have to speak to reproductive justice. And she's spoken on all these issues before, but right now in the presidential race, we're going to have to hear it again. But protesters are going to show up. And this kind of response shrinks the tent. It makes the moderates who just stood up say, wait a minute. I'm not the moderates, excuse me, the progressives who just stood up say, wait a minute. It makes the radicals stand up and say, wait a minute. It makes the people who are hoping for a ceasefire say, wait a minute. It's not a deal breaker. She didn't set her campaign on fire. Let's not get hyperbolic here. But this was not a good response. This was not a helpful response. This response does not demonstrate any care. And the message that it's going to send to people, as you're reading here, as you're hearing from people in the comments here, is that it makes people feel like they're going to get Joe Biden all over again. Kamala Harris cannot win without the progressive vote, cannot win without college student votes, cannot win without the people in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio who do care about this issue. And even if this isn't your only issue, you don't want to see people responded to that way. So I just think we need a better or a different response. Jazz LP says it's never appropriate to go into someone's house and shut them down, especially when the protesters' house voices are correct. Again, yeah, the voices are correct. They're calling for a free Palestine. They're calling for peace. They're calling for a ceasefire. There's absolutely, they're absolutely right in what they're asking for. And Landon says, who knows how long they were chanting, I'd get annoyed too unexpectedly. That might be true. Again, the issue here isn't about right or wrong right now. I'm talking strategically about how she's responding to the protesters. Whether the protesters are completely right in what they're asking for, I don't know what they were specifically asking for, but in general, they're right. And what Kamala Harris is responding to in that moment wasn't a policy issue. It was the interruption on this issue. But if you start telling people that the issue they care about doesn't matter, if that's the message you send, I'm not saying she's saying that, but that's the message she's sending to them. If that's the message you communicate, if that's the message people receive, that's not going to work out. If they hear my issue doesn't matter and you're blaming me for Donald Trump, that ain't going to work. So I am hoping that this campaign works that out. Again, I do not want to see Donald Trump return. I do believe that Kamala Harris is the best practical option we have right now. I'm not warm and fuzzy. I'm not doing backflips, but I do believe, from my perspective, that that is the best option. But it's hard to make that case to progressives. It's hard for me to pull college students. It's hard for me to get people excited if this is going to be the response. So we got to do better. I'm hoping the Harris campaign hears those young people, hears those protesters, and has a response to them, because you cannot, as Hudson has just said, you cannot come to Michigan to get voters. Michigan is the Arab capital of America. Dearborn is damn near like Syria and Lebanon and Palestine. Like, it is you can't ignore this. We need to see something different. That's all I'm going to say. All right, let's move on to another important topic, yo. And I gotta say, I have been watching the presidential race, obviously, like everyone else has. And I've been watching this VP thing unveil. And the difference between J.D. Vance, I'm just going to say, you know, the difference between J.D. Vance's unveiling when Donald Trump came to him and Tim Walz's unveiling when Harris came to him, two very different responses. Whereas Tim Walz has been sort of introduced to great love and care, respect. He came out and hit the road to laughter and joy and hugs. People were excited. People felt like he energized and strengthened the ticket that was already energized and strong. Tim Walz's unveiling has been, I mean, whether you agree with him, disagree with him, like him, don't like him, whatever. I'm just, in terms of the unveiling of it, my God, it's been wonderful. It's been perfect, pitch perfect. J.D. Vance has come off as a weirdo. He's come off as a creep. He's come off as a contrived dork. And the unveiling of him only continues to get worse and worse and worse. And it's gotten even more worse because effectively, and there's no other way to say this, J.D. Vance looks like he's stalking Kamala Harris right now. He literally looks like he is stalking Kamala Harris right now. It starts with the low energy tour. And when I say the low energy tour, what I'm saying is that J.D. Vance has hit the road. And the plan for J.D. Vance hitting the road is basically to move like a stalker. He is literally going city to city, everywhere that Kamala Harris has been, and giving speeches in the same town, having rallies in the same city. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a barnstorming tour. It's a swing state tour. I'm not saying that J.D. Vance is creepy for going to all the same states, but he's following her state to state to state. It reads like a stalker, and it reads like a creep, and it reads like a weak campaign. The reason I'm calling it a low energy tour is because Kamala Harris comes out, for example, to Philadelphia, and she's got the whole arena. I'm talking about where the Phillies and the Flyers and them be at. I'm talking about a full arena filled with people. She is there. Acts are actually no musical acts even were necessary on that day. All you needed was the people. It was crowded. It was energized. It was exciting. It was great to see people outside making their voices heard. And then J.D. Vance shows up. In fact, this photo you're looking at right now is him in South Philadelphia, but he's not at the Wells Fargo Center. He might be at Wells Fargo Bank or something. I mean, there was 200 people there. You're comparing tens of thousands of people to 200 people. The press didn't show up. And when Vance shows up, it's dry. It's dry. He's at the 2300 Arena in South Philadelphia, and only the diehards were there. Now, look, it wasn't supposed to be the kind of big picture blowout event that he had. I agree with that. So I don't want to make it sound exactly the same, but what he went out there and talked about, and the number of people who came to hear him talk about it, was quite disappointing. J.D. Vance did not draw much of a crowd. He did not draw much of an audience. And so the strategy of going city to city to city to follow Kamala Harris, it looks bad. It just looks like you're the opening act. It looks like you're lesser than. Donald Trump packs arenas. J.D. Vance cannot. Kamala Harris packs arenas. J.D. Vance cannot. And when he goes on this tour with his creepy comments, his weird antics, his low-level crowds, all he does is remind the world that he probably was a bad pick. A VP choice can help you, sure. We overstate how much a VP can help you, though. The idea that you pick a VP from a swing state or a state you need, and then you win the state, the data on that is very shaky. Let's not assume that you're going to get that. I've seen people like Al Gore not get Tennessee. I've seen, I don't even, did John Kerry get Ohio in 2004? I'm not even sure he did. So the point is, VPs, it's hard to find a VP that really elevates you and turns a loss into a win. But a VP can absolutely turn a win into a loss. Sarah Palin did not do John McCain any favors, made him seem unserious. Dan Quayle in the re-election campaign in 1992 under George H.W. Bush did not do George H.W. Bush any favors because he spent 4 years enduring accusations that he was a complete and bumbling idiot. Not being able to spell potato didn't help. By the way, if you know how to spell potato, write it in the comment. Well, some of y'all be adding an extra letter. Y'all know what I'm talking about, or maybe you don't. JD Vance is moving into that area where he's taking some of the luster and the sheen off of Donald Trump's candidacy. And if that continues to happen, you might not even see JD Vance make it to the end. I'm not saying he's going to wake up like in a bathtub, filled with ice with his kidney missing. I'm saying like Trump has no problem dropping you from the ticket if you ain't winning. How many secretaries of state? How many press secretaries? How many drivers? I mean, from the top to the bottom, Donald Trump don't mind cutting your behind. And so JD Vance is in a very interesting position, and his antics only make it worse. He didn't, just to be clear, JD Vance didn't just follow Kamala Harris, because some of y'all think I'm exaggerating. He didn't just follow Kamala Harris from city to city. They were on the same tarmac. And this is courtesy of WEAU News. I'm showing this. They were on the same tarmac. And as you can see here from the footage, at some point, JD Vance actually tries to run up to accost Vice President Harris on her plane. And then this Jamook tries to explain why this wasn't weird and creepy. Listen to him. Listen to what this man says.
I figured I'd come by and wanted to get on the plane. Hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months. But I also thought you guys might get lonely because the Vice President doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days.
I don't know if you can hear the audio there, but what he said was, he said I was trying to basically catch the Vice President to check out her plane because it is going to be hopefully it'll be my plane very soon. And in fact, I'll read it verbatim because I don't want to ever misrepresent what JD Vance says. You're not going to be able to hear the audio. It's a little low. What he said is, in fact, I'm just going to mute the audio altogether. I'm rolling solo, so that's why it's taking me a little longer. But what he said was, I just want to check out my future plane, and I also wanted to go say hello to the Vice President. I figured I'd come by and just get a good look at the plane because hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months. But also thought you guys might get lonely because the Vice President doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. So a couple things. One, that's one of those moves that sounds really cool and really clever when you do it. It's like when Drake decided to make that battle rap against Kendrick in the voice of Tupac and Snoop. It was like, yo, this is dope. This is fire. What could go wrong? Except you don't look like you're confronting Kamala Harris. You look like you're stalking Kamala Harris. You look ridiculous. You look like, to use a word from Governor Walz, you look weird. And then as he's marching back and forth talking about how he went to check out her plane and it's going to be his plane, hopefully, you came across as entitled and weird and sort of indifferent to the voices of normal people around the world who think you're creeping them out at the moment. You couldn't hear or see that because you were too busy being weird. Number two, you said you were doing it because Kamala Harris hasn't answered questions for 17 days. Now, that is an interesting approach, right? I'm trying to call her out. It's like in boxing when a boxer be like, well, come to the street and fight since you're ducking all the good fights. It's an interesting strategy, but it's not true. Kamala Harris absolutely has answered questions in the last 17 days. She's given speeches, she's given rallies, and she has also taken questions from reporters. You may not like who she asks, but she has taken, and there's a good chance you never will if you're JD Vance, right? But Kamala Harris is taking questions from Democrats or from conservatives and liberal media outlets. She's taking questions from the audience. She's taking from everyday citizens. Kamala Harris has answered questions. You can disagree with her answers. You can assess her answers. You can parse out her answers. But it is factually incorrect to say that Kamala Harris has not taken any questions. So I'm very sorry, Mr. Vance. That is simply not true. As you're walking around feeling very proud of yourself as you're stalking the vice president, I hope you understand how crazy you look. And then he says another thing. At the end, he says, I don't think the vice president waved at me as she drove away, but I'm glad to have done it. I saw her car. I did not see the vice president. So, okay, a couple of things. If you never saw the vice president, you only saw her car, on what basis can you say that she didn't wave at you? Just some basic, like, I didn't see her, but I don't think she waved at me. Why are you saying that? Now, you could say it's tongue in cheek. It could be tongue in cheek, right? It could absolutely be tongue in cheek what you just said. You know, I'm not humorless. But what it comes off is just like a lie. And you come off as a troll. And I get trolling people on the internet, but trolling people as VP, that's weird. That's weird. That's weird. And so the whole stalker thing, I'm giving y'all something else too. The whole stalker thing, I'm sorry, y'all. This is what happens when you do live TV. Y'all about to get something else that y'all didn't expect, though. So it'll be worth it, I promise. All right. So this whole stalker thing becomes even more frustrating, but also weird when you start saying things like, she didn't wave at me. You sound like a troll. You sound like an actual stalker, which is about male power, oftentimes aggressiveness. Women can be stalkers too, but I'm saying in this case, when men stalk women, you sound weird. I ran up to her plane. Like, you don't just run up on people, right? She's not entitled. You're not entitled to Kamala Harris's time. You're not entitled to Kamala Harris's attention. She doesn't have to answer any questions for you. And, you know, but this idea that you do is bizarre. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. It's all the things that's wrong with sort of the culture of hypermasculinity and toxic masculinity in this country. And you're going to see that on 10,000. But I'm going to show you something else that you're going to find absolutely disgusting. I was trying to pull this up so that you could see it, because and you'll understand why. You'll understand why I'm saying this now. In response to the JD Vance creep act, he decides to take to Twitter because he's proud of himself, because this is what weirdos do. He's actually proud of himself. He goes to Twitter and says, look, y'all, look what I did. And I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to zoom in for you. He says, I thought the reporters traveling with Kamala might be a little lonely given that she never answers questions from them. So I figured I'd come say hello and check out my new plane while I was at it. Again, he's bragging about his ridiculousness. But read the response from Stephen Chung. Stephen Chung is a Trump spokesperson. Read what he writes. Make sure AF2, that's Air Force 2, that's the vice president's plane, as opposed to Air Force 1, is deep cleaned, because Lord only knows what Kamala Harris and her team have done on there. The smell alone on that plane must be crazy. Wow. Wow. I mean, literally, I have no words except wow. So this is not the kind of subtle sexism and racism that we're used to from some of these folk. Some of these Trump supporters, some of these right-wingers, and frankly, some of these left-wingers or liberals say shit that is sexist and racist all the time. But they always try to couch it in something else. But he says, make sure Air Force 2 is deep clean. So he's playing into the narrative of Black people being dirty, that somehow you need to especially clean the plane because she's on it. And you might say, well, no, Mark, they're just saying she's messy. There's no reason to believe Kamala Harris is messy. There's no reason to believe Kamala Harris has some predilection for not being clean, right? This is not rooted in any behavior. There's no narrative about her like this. This is simply about a Black woman being unclean. And then they tell you why, right? She said, Lord only knows what Kamala Harris and her team have done on there. Lord knows what they've done on there. What could you have done on there that would make us smell? Obviously, this is a sexual innuendo. You're saying that she's dirty, she's lascivious, maybe she's hypersexual, she's engaged in some kind of weird sex acts or something that produces, and I'm not kink shaming or mocking anybody's sexual proclivities. I'm just saying, you know, that's what they're trying to assign to her, some weirdness. And so you're saying she's dirty, but not dirty like she don't wash the dishes. They're saying she's dirty like she's nasty, dirty, filthy woman who's having sex all the time. This plays into the long-standing narratives of Black women as Jezebel, Black women as sapphires. One day she's the angry emasculator, right? And then the next day she is the hypersexual woman who sleeps her way to the top. Both of these being the narrative. So she's nasty and dirty, and she's just on the plane, just screwing everybody. I mean, this is the implication of what this man, this Trump supporter, is saying. This isn't just a random weirdo on the internet. I wouldn't waste your time posting a random weirdo on the internet. This is a specific weirdo on the internet. This is a Trump spokesperson. This is somebody who Donald Trump supports and stands next to. This person says that. And that's the disgusting part about that. And I'm glad Pamela Jones said that's why I'd love for you to have Dr. Patricia Hill Collins on. Right. Those, by the way, those notions that I just talked about of the sapphire and the Jezebel, these are what Patricia Hill Collins calls controlling images of Black women. And you should really read her book, Black Feminist Thought, which breaks down all of this in great detail with great rigor. It's a path-changing, path-breaking book. But this idea from a Trump supporter, not a supporter, a spokesperson. This is somebody who Trump trusts to speak for him. He's using the implication that she's nasty and she's dirty and she's hypersexual and she's lascivious and she lacks any kind of sexual morality or ethic or purity. And here's the thing, there's no evidence of any of that. Not to say it would be okay whether there was or wasn't. I wouldn't care if a candidate, male or female, slept with 1 million people. That's not my business. And as long as you're not harming people, and as long as you're not exploiting people, and as long as you're not lying to the people, then it's not my damn business. But with Kamala Harris, that ain't even the real story. Kamala Harris has been married for 10 years. There's no reason to believe that she's doing anything on Air Force 2 that would reflect that kind of tweet. And marriage doesn't fix everything. It's not, that doesn't put on some moral high ground. I'm just saying, like, there's no evidence that she's anything but a single partnered monogamous person. But it doesn't matter. Somehow y'all want to bring up old stuff, you know, the Willie Brown stories. Y'all want to bring up all the BS from the past, and all you're doing is trying to rhetorically punish, discursively diminish a Black woman for her dating choices 30 years ago. I don't know the story. I don't need to know the story. I don't know the background. I don't know what's true and what's not true. It's not my business. You know what my business is? Whether Kamala Harris is going to get us reparations or advocate for it. You know what my business is? Whether we're going to have a public education system that's well funded. You know what my business is? Whether we're going to have infrastructure in this country. You know what my business is? Whether we're prepared to deal with a public health crisis again. You know what my business is? That we don't enter another senseless war. You know what my business is? That we end our participation in wars of aggression around the globe right now. That's the kind of stuff we should be caring about. But they want to turn this into an attack on Kamala Harris. And then they know that our response and defense of Kamala Harris against racist attacks and sexist attacks and against what Moya Bailey calls misogynoir, that combo of misogyny and anti-Blackness, when we address that, that only energizes the right wing to say, oh my God, these sensitive lefties, these sensitive liberals, these snowflakes. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. I don't care if you never vote for Kamala Harris. You still got to stand up and speak against sexism. You still have to stand up and speak against racism. Even if you don't agree with her politically, even if you're a Trumper, which makes you probably a terrible person. You're a garbage human being if you're that. But nevertheless, you still got to speak up when it's wrong. And I hope that Trump will denounce this kind of disgustingness. Will he? No. Why? Because he is disgusting himself, because he believes this stuff too. So I have no expectation that we're going to get a different outcome, but I damn sure going to continue to fight for a different reality here. Hey, look, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some stuff going on in the pop culture world. Some of it is still political. For example, your boy Ben Stiller said something crazy today or last night that we got to talk about. And of course, our girl L Boogie, Lauryn Hill, spoke out about the recent cancellation of the Fugees tour. We're going to talk all about that on the other side of this break. Stay here. Welcome back to Night School, y'all. It has been so much fun having y'all here. It has been so much fun talking to y'all, and the conversation is going to continue. Again, if you're just joining me here at Night School, please, please, please make sure that you drop your name in right now. Drop in your location, your city, your state, your country in the comment well. Let us know where you're coming in from. Make sure you write present here. Also, write in your comment well, in the comment well, what we've been talking about. To let us know what you think about what we've been talking about, because we've been talking about some fire stuff here. Is Kamala Harris responding properly to the pro-Palestine protesters? Let us know if that's true or not. Is J.D. Vance as creepy as he seems as he's stalking Kamala Harris all around the country? Let us know. And of course, what do you make of these racist and sexist comments made? Some are innuendos, some are direct, by Trump spokespeople. Let us know what you think. How should Kamala Harris respond to that? Should she respond to that at all? So many things to think about, but let's move to something else. I want to talk for just a moment about Ben Stiller. I like Ben Stiller. I like him in the movies that he's in. I like him generally as a public voice. I think he's interesting and cool. He doesn't do too much, doesn't put too much dip on his chip. You know, he doesn't pretend to be more than what he is. You know, he's like, I have thoughts, but I defer to the experts. He does the things that you might want people to do. That's a shot at him in Zoolander, which was a great movie where he played somebody who's really, really, really good looking. What is this, a school for ants? You know, the whole thing is just funny, right? Anyway, Ben Stiller was part of a fundraiser for comedians. You know, we've seen black women and girls for Kamala. We've seen white men for Kamala. We've seen white women for Kamala, believe it or not, even white men. But now we're getting even more subgroup, right? We getting like activist group organizations. We're getting professional organizations for Kamala. And now we have these comedians. And so Ben Stiller shows up and he offers his words. He offers his thoughts on what's going on in the world and why people should support Kamala Harris. It's an interesting moment that he's contributing to. He donates money because look, these things do cost money, and he donates to the cause, and $150,000, right? So money is being raised here for Kamala Harris. But Ben Stiller then jumps up in the mix and says something that I just thought was so friggin' weird. Check out what he said.
And she's also a historic candidate. You know, it's going to be the first woman president. And that's incredibly exciting. And, you know, she's Indian, she's black, she's everything. You can be more than one thing. It's incredible. You know, I'm Jewish and Irish. I wish I was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black. You know, it's just get out there and vote and donate and like take advantage. This is such an important time right now, and this wave of energy that's happening, we got to keep going with it. So please do everything you can.
So what? Look, let me say first, I'm not outraged, because some of y'all be like, "Oh my God, why are you, why are you making a big deal out of this? Don't you have other things to be angry about?" I'm not angry by this. I'm not outraged by this. I'm not losing sleep over this. I just think the shit is weird. First, Lynn Stack said, "Is he wrong?" Yes, he's wrong, Lynn. Every Jewish man does not want to be black. It's like every black man doesn't want to be white. Some of y'all do. Some of y'all Negroes want to be white men. I get it. I get that it happens. I don't agree with the sentiment, but it's weird. You're in there raising money for Kamala. Just raise the money, bro. Just ask people to donate. You donated $150. Beautiful. Shout out to you for trying to commit to something and then actually following through. But saying, "I wish I was black," it's just a thing that doesn't have to be said. From a comedic perspective, I get how nothing is off limits. But from a comedic perspective, the shit just wasn't funny. Just wasn't funny. So don't do that. But second, like, you're again bringing this race conversation into the foreground that didn't have to be. She's Indian, she's black. I want to be black. I'm not, but I wish I was. It's just bringing the same jerks who denied Kamala Harris's blackness, which is ridiculous. It's bringing them back into the conversation, and it kind of it frames her as somebody who is kind of bedfellows with these political weirdos and opportunists and vultures and all these things. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying that's the narrative. So look, Ben Stiller, shout out to you for donating money. Shout out to you for helping to organize. Shout out to you for being on the right side of most issues. But my God, Ben, don't make them kind of jokes. Not because I'm thin-skinned and a snowflake. They're just not funny. They're weird. They're creepy. Not JD Vance creepy, but they're creepy. And they're just not that funny. So let's move on, y'all. But don't do that no more. Yo, Ben, don't do that no more. Let's talk about somebody else who I hope would stop engaging in certain behaviors. I'm talking about this woman right here on your screen right now. Ms. Lauryn Hill. Just for context, Lauryn Hill is one of my favorite artists of all time. I adore Lauryn Hill. I used to be in love with Lauryn Hill, man. You couldn't tell me nothing when Ready or Not came out. When the Fugees dropped that album, my life changed. But Virginia, my whole life has changed. I won't sing it for y'all, but woo! I used to love me some L Boogie. And then when The Sweetest Thing came, anyway, that's a whole other. That's an office hours, baby. There's a reflection with Jameer. I don't know, but the point is, I love Lauryn. So this is not coming from a place of hate. I'm a fan. The old meaning of fan, not the new Kendrick version. And then Lauryn went back on tour. So now my old fandom and my old love for Lauryn Hill is met with excitement that she is going on tour. It started in 2020, 2021. The idea was the Fugees would go on tour and do like an anniversary tour from The Score. And then COVID hit. And so then it's time to do the 25th anniversary of Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, her solo album, which came out in August of 1998. So it was like, okay, she's about to do a tour of that. A lot of people said, don't go to a Lauryn Hill show. A lot of people said, don't go to a Lauryn Hill concert. Why? Because you're going to be disappointed. For a decade now, more than a decade, maybe 2 decades now, lots of people have been saying, you don't rock with Lauryn Hill because she shows up late. You don't rock with Lauryn Hill because, you're at a music festival, her sets will start at 4, she might show up at 7. And there was a moment where she offered a very long, detailed response about why she showed up late, about getting her she didn't say her chakras aligned, but getting into the right mental and spiritual place to do the music. She talked about why she hasn't made another album. She broke down lots of different things that people have complained about with the tour. And it was like, cool. If Lauryn Hill does a show, though, there's a good chance you're not going to get home anytime near the on time or the proper time, because she's going to show up many, many hours late. And for a lot of people, that's just so disrespectful to the audience and to the fans that they're not willing to buy tickets. They're not willing to support it. But lots of other people are willing to buy tickets. And when that happens, fans have expectations, and kind of you're hoping that it doesn't happen to you. I went to see Lauryn Hill with my brother for Lauryn Hill and Nas. I believe they were in Camden, maybe like 10 years ago now. I don't remember. It's been a minute. Has it been 10 years? Yeah, probably been 10 years. I don't remember, honestly. But 10 years feels right. Maybe it's a lot more than that. Anyway, Nas came out. Lauren took a while. I don't know if she was late, but she was late. You know, Nas did a little extra set, but then she came out and she killed it. And they did a nice little thing together. It was on Nas's birthday, because I remember her singing to Nas on his birthday. So that's when it was. And so I know what it's like for Lauren to be a little late. But then I started hearing people say, Lauren be super late. Not 15, 20 minutes, not 30 minutes, not 40 minutes. Hip hop time. So if a hip hop show started at 8, I wouldn't leave my house to 8. You know what I mean? But as I get older, I don't want to wait that long. Anyway, Lauryn Hill announces the tour, and people are complaining from the rip. A couple of things got canceled early on. Lauryn Hill says it was from her voice, that she had to cancel some stuff because of her voice. She announced, I went to the tour. I went to opening night in Jersey. I was like, if I'm going to go to a Lauryn Hill concert, I want to see her in her hometown where everybody and mama going to show up. And they did. Everybody from Rod Digger to all the Fugees to John Forte, everybody was there. But my wife and I also had a thought that if Lauren's going to show up, she's probably going to show up to the show near her house, and the first full show of the tour. Like, she can't cancel the first one, because we sitting here in Philly, like, we're going to drive an hour and a half to Jersey to watch her, because we don't want we don't know if she's going to make it to Philly in 3 weeks. Sure enough, we go to the show. The show might have started at 7. We were supposed to start at 7. I believe it started at like 10. I think it started at 9 or 10. It was at least 2. I know we had a babysitter. We were like, we're going to watch the show. We said it starts at 7. That means it'll probably start at 8. We said it'll start an hour late, and then it'll go like 2 hours. That joint started 2-3 hours late, and then went to like 1 in the morning. The show didn't end until the time we were supposed to be back in Philadelphia, coming from Newark. So like, it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I mean, it was crazy. You know, Lauren was great to us. I got to go backstage afterwards. She was very nice to my wife. They went to the same high school. She was very nice to me. They didn't know each other, but it was all love. I got to talk to her parents, all love. I had a great time. She took time with these wonderful kids from high school, from the area high school. It was just dope, right? But there's something about sitting in that arena for 3 hours. What was crazy is when we got there at 8 o'clock for the 7 o'clock show, because we were in the VIP area in the back chilling. I'm not flexing. I'm just saying, like, we put like this. We heard the music and thought the show was starting. That was the sound check. That's how far behind they were. And it was like, yo, B, what's going on? Don't do this to us. And then 2 weeks later, the Philly show got canceled. So we made the right choice. But Lauren canceled it because she said she had a medical issue, something with her throat and her voice. And I understood all of it. Anyway, this summer, it was announced that they were going to finish the tour or continue the tour. They were going to be in Europe, and they were also going to do a bunch of dates in the United States, including Philly again. Or maybe that was the made up Philly date. I don't know. I had no intention of going to the Philly show because I'd just seen her. Well, 2 days ago, people on Ticketmaster started having their tickets refunded. There was no big announcement or anything like that, but Ticketmaster sent emails to people who bought tickets in the various U.S. cities and said to them, you ain't got no tickets no more, but your money is coming. Your money's coming back to you. So it was like, all right, cool, right? Lauryn Hill's greatness makes the wait worthwhile. The only artist who never compromise. I don't mind waiting an hour for an artist, But if you tell somebody the show's at 7 and you don't come out to 10, I think that's disrespecting the audience. I do, and I love Lauren, but I don't think there's a defensible reason to show up to a show 3 hours late. And you can convince yourself that it's about yourself being okay and getting out and being right. And I agree with that. You need to be all right. But even at the show, I heard Lauren say something like, basically like, after everything I've been through, y'all could wait a few hours for the show. I'm like, nah, that's not fair. That's not fair to the audience. That's not fair to all the people who buy those records. Like, we're coming to hear you. We love you. Again, we move culturally appropriate time frame. So I get it. Somebody say the barbecue started at 4. If you show up to my house at 4, you're gonna be putting together furniture. You gonna be running out for ice. Like, if I say 4, the party don't really start at 4. But if it's midnight, that's outside the boundaries of what if it's 8 and it ain't started, that's unreasonable. So, like, there are rules and then there are rules, and none of the rules or the rules allow you to show up 3, 4, 5 hours late. And that is what's frustrating. And so when it was announced that Lauryn Hill and the Fugees had canceled their tour, this became something that people had to deal with. Again, it was silent, and then the media started bubbling it up. And so now they have to respond. Let me be very clear. This is Lauryn Hill and the Fugees. So I'm not blaming Lauryn Hill for the breakdown of a concert that's her and the Fugees. I don't know why they canceled. I don't know why they shut it down. So I'm not blaming Lauryn, but Lauryn is the person who spoke up. And probably the reason she spoke up is because she's the one who's getting blamed for all of it. And that's just the reality. She's the headliner of the group. She's the front person of the group. Wyclef is just as influential. I'm not, no disrespect to Wyclef, but I'm just saying, when this shit happens, people aren't saying, well, why the fuck is Wyclef late? They're saying, why is Lauryn late? For whatever reason, fair or not. So Lauryn speaks up, and here's what she told People Magazine. I'm sorry, this is who she told Twitter. She came up on Twitter and gave her own explanation for why this was happening. Now, you ain't gonna be able to read this, and I don't know how to make it any bigger. So what I'm gonna do, let me see if I can make it. There we go. Actually, I can't make it bigger. Look at that. Look at God. She said, it still ain't. She released this on Twitter. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna make this even bigger. Let's see if you can read it now. So here it is. She said, with difficulty, the decision was made to pull down our upcoming North American tour dates. The shows in the UK and Europe are moving forward as planned. So again, there was speculation. They're like, are people in England or France or Spain going to get their shit canceled, or Germany, wherever, going to get their stuff canceled? The answer is no. But read this part. Last year, I faced an injury that necessitated the rescheduling of some of my shows. Regrettably, some media outlets penchant for sensationalism and clickbait headlines. You can tell she went to Columbia University and Columbia High School, have seemingly created a narrative that has affected ticket sales for the North American portion of the tour. The trust and faith I have in my intentions and my commitment to my art seem to have been overshadowed by this unfortunate portrayal. What does that mean? I'm gonna put that in King's English. She's saying people talking so much shit about the show, the performance of it, and how late I was, that no one wants to buy tickets because they think I ain't gonna show up, or they think I'm going to be really, really late, and that was unfair. I was late because I was sick. I was late because I had a health issue, but the media spun it and made it seem like I'm just trifling, and now no one is buying tickets. And because the ticket sales are so low, I can't justify being where I'm at. Remember, Lauryn Hill don't show up to like the House of Blues. She's showing up to Madison Square Garden. She's filling up stadia. And so ticket sales are low or slow around the country, then you ain't gonna get them. People ain't showing up no more. And so she's saying that the reason why the shows had to be canceled is because the media misrepresented her and depressed the sales patterns, which then caused her to have to not do it. That is an interesting analysis, and that demonstrates to me a lack of self-awareness. The audiences in the UK and Europe not only haven't seen the Miseducation performance yet, they haven't seen the Fugees perform together in over 25 years. And now she's going through all of it, right? Performing for my fans is a profound exchange of energy and emotion that excites me every time. Every show is a piece of my expression and testament to our connection and shared love for music. I can assure you that no one is more disappointed about not being able to perform than I am. I believe that. I believe Lauryn loves the audience. I believe Lauryn loves performing, but I just believe, based on what I've seen in my own experiences, and I've seen Lauryn Hill live many, 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 many times, and I would Probably go see her again under the right circumstances. But I would have liked to see some accountability here. I would have liked to see just a little bit of, I missed a lot of shows. I understand I've lost the public's trust. I want to earn it back. Let's go. But if you operate from the perspective, and I think this is Lauren's principled and legitimate perspective, I just don't agree with her, is that, look, I'm trying my best. I love the audience. I love performing, but sometimes things happen. And when they do, y'all got to respect it too. It's a two-way street. I don't think that's a fair characterization. But, again, with love, respect, and honesty, MLH. When you see MLH, it doesn't mean Marc Lamont Hill. It means Ms. Lauren Hill. And MLH broke it down. But the truth is, as I said before, I'll say it again, there has to be some accountability. There has to be more here than just saying, the world got me wrong. The world screwed me over, and therefore it's everybody's fault but mine. The Fugees and Lauryn Hill have to come together and say, why are we not selling tickets? You're a legendary rap group. You're a legendary band. Everybody loves you. Y'all are our Rolling Stones. We need y'all out there. So why are the ticket sales slow? You have to ask yourselves why, and then give yourselves quality answers. Because if you don't, you're going to end up in the same place later. And this is not just about the Fugees. This is not about Lauren or Clef or Praz or anybody else. In particular, this is about something deeper. This is about how we think about our own role in our own success or failure. If you're in life and you're constantly looking up and saying, nothing is working for me, I keep getting fired from jobs, or, I don't like finding friends because I end up, in an argument and not speaking to my friends, and I always end up like not having any more friends. If every friendship ends, if every job ends in disaster, firing, spectacle, drama, it might be you. It might be you. Tanya Creator said, I really want her to say she doesn't want to tour. I don't know if she wants to or not. I think she does. I think she likes performing. I just think there's some things that make it challenging. I don't know. They just announced 2 days ago that she's going to make a new album on a new record label. So maybe she does have a vision of what she wants to do, and we're getting there. Or maybe she's testing the public out and saying, I don't want to go back to this world again. I don't want to go back to that life of being exploited. I don't want to go back to that life of being used. I don't want to go back to that life of everybody needing me, but really not caring about me. I could see her wanting to go back into her own private spaces of protection. I'm with that. But do it, sister. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Zuzu would say, do not say you're going to come out and perform and then not come out and perform, because that ain't the move. That is not the move. Anyway, y'all, one more conversation, one more topic, I should say. I told y'all we had a good show today. I told y'all we had a big show today. I want to make sure we cover all of it. How can I put this? We'll come back. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back, and I'll tell you the last story. But it's an interesting one. It's complicated. I want to know what y'all think about it. Stay right here. All right, family, welcome back to Night School. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of ground to cover, so much to talk about. And we've covered lots of ground, but we got one more story that I got to make sure that we cover. The internet was buzzing after seeing Marcus Jordan, the son of Michael Jordan, overseas in France, deciding that he wanted to ski. Now, you might say, what's wrong with skiing? Everybody likes to ski. What's wrong with going to the French Alps and skiing? Well, he was doing a special kind of skiing, allegedly. This pic emerged in social media of your boy sniffing that China White, getting high on his own supply. This is allegedly Marcus Jordan in public at a restaurant, getting a little sniff of that ooh wee. And judging from the photos that emerged, he seemed to be enjoying it. He got his food, he got his beverage, maybe some mimosa. I don't know. He got a cigar, could be a L, could be weed. I don't know. But what we know for sure is he was sniffing a powdery white substance into his nostrils, and he looks happy as a pig in shit afterward. And look, I don't know much about Marcus Jordan. I don't. I just don't know much about him. So I can't say I can't say much about him. I'll just say that. He used to be dating Larsa Pippen, Scottie Pippen's ex-wife, which is wild. He now seems to be dating a new woman. Her name is Ashley Stevenson. They're in the south of France right now. And if you don't know who Ashley Stevenson is, you can assume that she is as white as that powder he's sniffing. And he's outside having a ball. And the internet is pouncing on him. They're saying, how dare you do this? I'm embarrassed, blah, 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 blah. Look, I don't do coke. Never done coke a day in my life. I have no plans to do coke. But this idea of shaming people for their practices, creating all this stigma, part of the reason why we have the war on drugs and part of how we're able to lock up so many people is we created a kind of moral panic around drug usage. Again, I don't think that people who do drugs like cocaine or crack or heroin are making a good choice. It's an unhealthy choice, but an unhealthy choice doesn't make it a harmful choice. The fact that I'm doing something that you don't like, I might also be eating, a plate of fried chicken with, you know what I'm saying, washed down with Chick-fil-A lemonade, and I eat it with a peach cobbler. I might be doing as much harm and damage to my body as someone else is who's sniffing something or smoking something or snorting something. It's not my business. I don't want to take the moral high ground. I don't want to be judgmental of them. I don't want to assume that I'm healthier or making better choices for them. So we have to get out of the stigma of drug usage. Again, I'm not telling y'all to do coke. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. Do not do coke. I'm saying do not do crack. I'm saying do not do heroin. Don't do those things because they're not good for your body. They're not good for your life. But I'm not going to create the kind of moral panic around it that I suddenly want something to happen to him. Marcus Jordan got plenty of money. He's not harming anybody, except maybe himself. He's not bothering anybody. He's not asking people for coke. And it's clearly not his first time. The way he's sniffing that, he looked like he is the Michael Jordan of sniffing coke outside. You know what I'm saying? That's what he do. He is GOAT status. So look, let him do it. Leave him alone. Mind his own business. If I'm outside, I don't want somebody to be doing coke, but I don't feel the need to do a citizen's arrest or a citizen photo. So if it's not a moral panic, then what is it? You're just trying to exploit him for money? You're trying to get him to buy the pics back? You're trying to get him to stop himself from being in a tabloid? So you're a real piece of garbage to photograph somebody at their worst moment or at an embarrassing moment or just at a private moment. Stop it. And y'all know who to do that to, man. I could tell you as somebody who worked in TV I've worked in TV for the last 18 years, literally. And some of your favorite news anchors do coke. Some of your favorite TV contributors do coke. Many of your favorite executives do coke in the TV business. So I'm just saying that to say there's a lot of that going around. And the fact that none of their pictures show up and Marcus Jordan's does show up, that says a lot about who those people are and who they think we are. So leave y'all photo cameras alone or at home when you see people doing stuff you don't like to do. Mind your own business when people aren't harming anybody. And if Michael Jordan's son want to ski the Alps, go ahead. I wish the only Alps he was skiing was that coke and not these blonde bombshells that he ends up with. That's so corny and lame. But you know what? He's still young. Maybe he'll grow out of it. Anyway, family, that is it for tonight. Thank you for watching Night School. I love when y'all come on the show with me through your comments and through your super chats. In fact, let me hit A couple of these super chats before we go. To quote the great George Michael and Wham. Karen D writes in and says, "Hey y'all, Cori Bush threw down the gauntlet and said she is going to tear Apex's kingdom down. We should all be following her on social media to help her in any way possible." That's right. Cori Bush has struggled and worked and made some tough decisions for not just for Missouri District 1, but for Black people more broadly, for the vulnerable around the world. And so, look, follow her, shut her down on the congressional side, and that's fine. We can't stop that, but open her up on the people side. We will give her 10 times as many followers. We'll give her much more funding. We'll support her because she's our sister. And that's all we can do. And let's not let this happen again. Let's not let history repeat itself. Reginald Miller gifted a membership to people. So if you were out there, you saw that thing floating, the membership, make sure you grab it, sign up, and get a free membership here at the channel. How do you feel about them using Van Jones as talking point? I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, but I'll look into it. We can talk about it tomorrow. I always got a need to talk about something, and I never mind talking about Van Jones, so we'll check that out. I said, "Salam, brother Mark. I still say lesser two evils is still evil. Free Palestine. Look, it is still evil. I don't make the choice from a place of moral purity. When I vote these days, I think about what is the best option I can do that causes the greatest good for the most people, and what causes the least harm for the most people, right? So how can I basically make things better everywhere? Because we're talking about voting here, and there are times where voting strategically and vote trading, ballot initiatives, strategic balloting in general can be helpful. It can allow you to meet multiple goals, and sometimes you just got to say Trump is here, and yet he's not the only bad guy here, but he's a lot worse. And so maybe we can do some harm reduction there. That's all I'm saying. Oath of Day, welcome. Or is that other day? Oath of Day, welcome to YouTube. Thank you for joining the channel. As a member, we really greatly appreciate you. Anyway, y'all, that is the show for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you can. Hitting the like button increases our influence with the YouTube algorithms. When you hit the like button, it lets YouTube know that you care about our content, which is what independent grassroots media needs in order to fight back against corporate media. Hit the subscribe button because it gives us a bigger social media imprint so that we can take up more space and more people can access our content. If you're so inclined, hit the join button as well, because when you hit the join button, you become a monthly paid member of the channel, which gives us the financial stability, the reach, the access that we need to do the work that we absolutely not just want to do, but must do if we want to be free. On top of that, if you don't have the ability to make a monthly commitment, I ask that you make a donation right now. It's August 7th. It's early in the month, and we need all the support we can get. And I really sincerely mean that. The Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, for us to keep going, we need your commitment. We need people to get paid memberships to the channel. We also need people to donate. If you can't donate a ton, you don't have to. If you donate $1, we're grateful. If you donate $100, we're grateful. If you donate $1,000, we're grateful. If you donate $1 million, we're really, really grateful. We'll take all of your donations and do all the things that we promise you we will do with them. That means that we will continue to run all of our content, night school Monday to Friday here on the channel at 9 p.m. Eastern, office hours, where we do a deep dive with a critical and important and impassioned thinker for a deep dive intellectual analysis and a breakdown of all the things you want to know. Coffee and Books and the Classroom in the Cell are our channel's podcast. The last one, Classroom in the Cell, is co-hosted by me and Mumia Abu Jamal, the political prisoner. So there's so much stuff going on the channel. All I ask is that you support it. And the best way you could support it right now is if you could donate $10. If everybody watching right now were to go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle and send over $10, we would be able to meet all of our financial goals for the month. We'd be able to pay our employees. We'd be able to continue to put out the content. We'd be able to invest further in a studio facility. We can only do all that stuff with the power of the people. I don't have a billionaire backing me. I don't have corporate media underwriting me. This is all the power of the people. So please consider enhancing the people's power with your own contribution. Again, $10 would absolutely help us meet our financial goals for the month. But look, if you can only give $1, we're grateful. If you can give $1 million, we're grateful. And anything in between. The only thing we ask is that you like the content, that you share the content, and that you study the content, because studying is what Night School is all about. So please keep watching, keep supporting, keep subscribing. Also, Cori Bush, as I said before, that's our sister. So please make sure that you also support Cori Bush by following her on all the technology, because you know they're going to get rid of that congressional account sooner or later. And when they do, we want to make sure she can jump right in full stride to continue to help and fight with and for us. So thank y'all for watching. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.